All right, hello, welcome. I think we are live. Welcome. My name is Kelsey. This is Igniting Insight. We are talking about the full moon in Scorpio today. We're going to talk about Pluto retrograde. We're going to talk about all the things. I go live every new and full moon to kind of do an energy report. And this time around, it is some energy. I was making myself some notes to kind of direct my thoughts this time around, and it ended up that I just wrote a lot of what's been on my mind, a lot of what I want to say. So I'm gonna really just go through and read what I've written. So I apologize if it looks like I'm reading because I am. But we have the Scorpio full moon tonight, May 7th. It is, Scorpio is a planet, is a sign ruled by the planet Pluto, and so that's one big reason why I'm also going to be talking about the current Pluto retrograde, which began on April 25th and will last until October 5th, 2020. What it means that a planet rules a sign is basically these energies are very similar. They're going to build upon each other. It's really the same kind of energy. The difference between a sign and a planet is the planet is more of the, gosh, I got to brush up on my terminology a bit, but the sign is really kind of like the area of your life, along with the house, where the planet is really kind of the what is happening, if that makes sense. So Pluto or Scorpio energy is really all about seeing the shadow, in ourselves as well as in the world. It is a outer planet, which means that it moves really slowly. It's obviously the furthest planet away from the sun, which means that it's going to be affecting us on more of a large scale. It's going to have more collective effects than individual effects, although my personal belief with astrology is that all planets have personal effects. They all influence us within our own natal charts based on when we were born. And specifically, they interact with other planets and elements within our chart. And that's really where that personal aspect comes in. So, Pluto rules the unconscious. It rules the things that we don't see or the things that we don't want to see. Pluto is traditionally known as god of the underworld. And while some might think this sounds like it's a sinister spin, it simply means that Pluto's all about the things that we either aren't looking at because we don't know they exist, or we aren't looking at because we're not willing to acknowledge that they exist. It's a lot of things that we've repressed. It can be things within ourselves. I guess, to give a complex but simple example is any sort of trauma that we've experienced in our life. Some element of ourselves or of the experience tends to get repressed, and that can kind of get aggravated by Plutonian energy. When things like this happen, when we have a Scorpio full moon, or when we have Pluto in retrograde, or any kind of emphasis on this energy, those things that we've repressed can start to come up because they want to be healed and integrated. It also really reflects a lot of what we see in the world. Something that this energy really reminds me of is kind of what it's like initially to have your spiritual awakening. And I can really speak from, my own perspective, but also of, the experiences of some people that I've spoken to, and kind of what I've heard other people talk about as far as spiritual awakening. It it basically feels like you're seeing everything that is wrong with the world, right? it doesn't usually feel good at first because you're waking up to um, a deeper level of reality, and what's really going on in the world is a lot of shadow, a lot of darkness, a lot of um, disconnection, dis-ease, um, violence, hatred, fear, all of these kind of things that we think of as negative, we start to see, and we start to see how they play out. One big thing, could be your awakening to systems of oppression and how those are playing out every day, or you're waking up to capitalism and how that's having a negative effect, or you're waking up to the environment and the toxicity that we've been putting out there. Um, you know, Big corporations being overly selfish, or the inequality in wealth, or um, even like the damage within kind of things like, it could be the public school system. There's a lot of different things that we start to see when we awaken spiritually, and this is because we're being called to um, look at reality in a different way and step out of the matrix, so to speak, of reality, and really you know, step up into a new level of being, a new level of awareness, and in a higher vibration, where these things, eventually aren't going to be able to continue to exist. So I really feel like Pluto and Scorpio is kind of holds and captures all of those things. And really the purpose behind that is so that we can do this integration work. Um, when we have spiritual awakening, at least my experience, it can be frustrating. It can feel hopeless. We can feel disempowered to do anything about it until we learn to do our own work and start to empower ourselves. So there's a couple of really good things about these astrological happenings right now. First of all, Jupiter is pretty closely conjunct to Pluto, which means it's in the same spot, which means those energies are kind of being intertwined right now. And what Jupiter does is it's amplifying this energy even more. Jupiter is known as the big benefic, which means it's kind of the big good planet, right? It makes everything larger. It's the planet of luck. It's generally a jolly planet. And I think it may allow us to move through this Pluto retrograde period with more acceptance for the inner work we're being asked to do at this time. So even if it feels difficult to see what's coming up for you, or to see what you're seeing outside of you, I feel like we have a lot of positive energy to help us do it anyway, if that makes sense. On the opposite end of this moon, we have the sun in Taurus. So just a reminder, full moons are always opposite of the sun. So the opposite sign to Scorpio is Taurus. And Taurian energy is all about kind of creature comforts. It's the comforts of the mundane. It's all about sensuality, good food, good company, good feelings. Taurus just kind of wants to connect, feel good. It's definitely about value systems as well. So one thing that could be coming up is, revisiting your values at this time. It's very earthy, grounded, and compassionate energy, but it's also an energy that can become inflamed when its boundaries are pushed too far. So think about Taurus as the bull. Really all they want to do is kind of relax, eat grass, chill out. But if they get poked and prodded enough, they will charge. And so, hopefully this Taurian energy where the sun is, there's some calmness. I know a lot of us are, currently at home. So it could be that you're feeling good at home, but it could also be that some of your boundaries are getting pushed at home, in a place that, would normally maybe feel relaxing and nourishing and comforting, could be triggering you. And I would just encourage you to take these triggers as kind of invitations to learn some lessons and to do some integration work. And I guess, as someone that's trying to be really sensitive about the language that I'm using and making the language I use accessible and understandable to whoever might be watching my content, what I mean by integration work is it's really this process that we go through of seeing, acknowledging, accepting, and healing whatever is within us that maybe has created some disharmony. It's a process that can be done many different ways. It's something that I would be happy to talk about in more detail. If that's something you would like to hear, please let me know. Leave me a comment or send me a message. If you just let me know, I want more on integration, and I'll definitely create that. So during this time, there could be a lot coming up from your past to be looked at and integrated. This is, I would say Scorpio energy is also definitely a big part of karma. You could feel triggered by memories of your past, things in your past ways of being, and you, depending on where you're at in your journey, depending on how much of this kind of shadow work you've done or where you're at in your spiritual growth process, I think you're going to be somewhere on the spectrum of feeling really triggered or being really accepting of what's coming up. And any part of that is totally okay. Wherever you're at is totally okay. Just if you can acknowledge where you're at, if you can see it, that's going to really benefit you in being able to move through it and to still use these energies to your benefit, to do the work that's really being asked of you. So the more you can lean into the discomfort coming up for you, the more benefit you'll get from this moon energy. And then specifically, you'll want to look at whatever house this full moon is happening in for you. So depending on how familiar you are with astrology, you might already have a copy of your birth chart. You might have no idea what I'm talking about when I talk about houses. If the former is true, do look at what house this full moon is happening in for you. So where is Scorpio in your chart? And you can just do a Google search about that house, whatever number house it is, just look it up. And then you'll also want to look where the Pluto retrograde is happening. So where is Capricorn in your chart? That's the sign that it's happening in. And see what areas of your life you could be seeing these transformations happening or being asked to happen for you. And if you're not sure about houses, totally don't worry about it. There's a lot in this, I think, that you can still use. It's really important to note that the Scorpio full moon and Pluto and Capricorn are in a harmonious sextile with each other. So this is kind of another one of those positive traits or positive aspects going on with this astrology. I think this really means we have an opportunity here to do some positive work. I don't necessarily think it will be easy for many of us because shadow work isn't really supposed to be easy and it doesn't really come easily. It's definitely something you can practice and it's a process that can go more smoothly the more you practice it. But it's looking at the uncomfortable stuff. So it's not necessarily supposed to feel good, but on the other side of it is where we get kind of the rewards of just like an increased spaciousness in us, where there's more opportunity for more joy, more happiness, more prosperity, more fulfillment, more abundance, whatever it is that you're wanting more of in your life. You've got to create the space for it by doing this integration work. So again, I don't think it's going to be easy, but it'll definitely be rewarding. And we should have the internal resources needed to move forward with the integration that's being asked to happen. So just to kind of clarify what I mean, the way that the Scorpio full moon and Pluto retrograde in Capricorn are talking to each other is a way that's harmonious. So they're working together to help us do this work. And then again, Pluto and Scorpio has a lot to do with karma, which again means that this moon could be bringing things up from your past. There's really a big opportunity for past life integration if that's something that you resonate with here as well. There can be karmic soul lessons that have been asking to be learned that can be completed now. And it's all in how you act and react to the current energies and whatever is being asked of you both internally and externally. So this reminded me of something that I've been working on, and I just kind of felt called to share it. So I'm part of a group called Tarot Readers Academy, I believe, by Ebony Dawn on Facebook. It's a really big group full of tarot readers of various kinds, and every Wednesday and Friday they do this free reading exchange, which is really cool. And so I met somebody through this free reading exchange that does Akashic Records readings, and I got my Akashic Records read. Her name is Avalon. Her business is called Akashic Bliss. You can find it on Facebook. I would highly recommend looking into her work because the reading I got was super powerful because it takes kind of it's a reading for you, but it's looking into the Akashic Records, which is all about your karma and kind of your soul blueprint. And what she revealed for me was kind of how some of the patterns and tendencies that I deal with in my current life maybe have come in from past lives. And she gave me an exercise for clearing this, and I found it to be super powerful just to have that awareness and to have the clearing exercise. And so this is kind of what I mean by like karmic soul lessons. Like if you see a pattern in your life and you realize that it's happening over and over again, it's really easy to kind of start to blame yourself or blame ourselves for what's happening, and to ask questions like, why does this keep happening to me? I'm tired of having this pattern go on. And while that can be enough to motivate change, what I'm finding is kind of accepting that my past lives and my soul blueprint is playing a role in my current life. It actually it opens up the ability for me to clear these things more easily, because it's less about everything that I've done in this life and more about, hey, this is what I came in here to like learn and integrate and shift in this life. But it's not really like my fault because I didn't do it in this life. And even if it's, my soul's responsibility to do the work, for some reason, when I have that idea of separation for me personally, it really it opens it up and it makes it easier to do what's necessary to actually make those changes and shifts. So I would check out Akashic Bliss if this is at all resonating with you, or look into Akashic Records readings, because I think it can be really powerful. And then I just kind of wanted to divulge and share a little bit about this. I mean, I have been looking forward to doing this live since Pluto went retrograde. I actually didn't realize Pluto was going retrograde until stuff started happening in my life, and I was like, what's going on? I tend to be the kind of astrologer that I'm not quite at the point where I'm looking ahead maybe as much as I could be, but I do look at the charts and see what's happening when stuff comes up, and I have the knowledge to see it and to understand and to be like, oh, it's that, which is really cool and really useful. But Pluto retrograde has really been hitting me hard, and I can tell you it's because It's in my first house. So it's the house that rules kind of me and my personality and the way that I kind of present myself in the world, and just like who I feel I am. And it's also right on my Mars Venus conjunction. And so there's a lot happening in interpersonal relationships, and there's a lot happening in kind of my fire center of like how I want to feel empowered and my personal power, how I want to, um, enforce change in my life. So it's a lot of this, and it's because it's interacting with these planets. It's interacting with a key part of my chart. So if you're someone that doesn't have much going on or touching this Pluto retrograde, this might not be as strong for you. But if you are someone that has things touching it, it could be a lot more pronounced, and it's all going to depend on what exactly it's touching. So if you need any help looking at your chart or figuring out where this Pluto retrograde or even this full moon is impacting you, definitely reach out. Let me know. I would be happy to provide a reading for you and provide some insight into kind of what's going on for you personally, or what opportunities you have to integrate and heal with whatever's going on. The best way to get those readings specifically from me right now is to just send me a message. But yeah, like I said, for me, it's been in relationships and how I kind of my personal power and how I want to assert myself and how I want to it's also a lot about I would say like boundaries and how I want to be respected with Mars, and kind of what I've been doing to do the integration and to accept what's coming up is, every moment like trying to look deeper into myself, instead of looking externally at whatever's triggering me or whatever circumstances happening or whatever shift is going on out there. I'm taking that as an invitation to look in here, especially because I know this is happening in my first house. So I'm looking within, and I'm looking at the ways that I've been, the values that I hold, what I want out of my life, and how past choices maybe have not reflected my values and what I want out of my life. And so this is all about taking personal responsibility, tuning into my sovereignty, realizing that I do have choices. And one thing that was coming through me today really intensely was the fact that judgments that we have towards others, or judgments that we have towards ourselves, but really any judgment that you have towards someone else, anything at all, whether you feel like it's 100% justified or whether it feels really petty to you and unjustified. These are always doorways to do shadow work. They're doorways to see something in yourself that you're not looking at yet, and that's calling you to look at. Um, it it's intense, the amount of unconscious programming we all have within us. This goes on so many different levels, and it can be seen through so many different lenses. But at the end of the day, when you have a judgment towards something or someone outside of yourself, it is an opportunity to look within and to see what in you are judging, what in you don't want to see, and then to do that integration, that shadow work process. And I wish that I could kind of go into everything that looks like. I mean, more and more as I kind of, am re-engaging on social media and doing my lives for these full and new moons, and kind of talking about the energies, it's the more I realize that really my work and my gift in the world is this shadow work portion. I mean, I think it's kind of ironic that so many of us call ourselves light workers when really what we're doing is shadow work. If we're doing anything at all, we cannot spread light or love without looking at the shadow and integrating those things. And so, I guess like a couple of really brief tips about how to do this is one, let every emotion flow that's coming through you. If you're processing deep grief, sadness, anger, frustration, confusion, like whatever's coming through, if you can release it and be an active participant in that experience of emotional release and purging, that can be really powerful. And you know, again, to bring it back to the judgment, do it without judgment as much as you can. Just allow it to release. All it wants is to come out, be seen, be heard, be acknowledged, be released, and it's going to clear. And these things are going to happen in layers. So one thing that's easy to do for us is feeling like we're back in the same place that we were however long ago, feeling like we've got past something and now we're back in it again. And something that I always teach about is the spiral of growth, the growth spiral. So we're never revisiting something in the same way or as the same person that we were when we visited it the last time, because we're always growing, but we're growing out in a spiral. That means like things on the point are going to keep being readdressed until they're fully healed and integrated. So if you have judgments coming up around, I've already done this, why am I here again? Why is this happening to me again? Why do I keep going through this? Just realize that's an invitation. It's a doorway to do that work on a deeper level. You have more resources and tools now than you did the last time, and you're able to clear more layers of that off. So yeah, it's super powerful. Shadow work is super powerful. There's a lot on it. There's a lot more that can be said. We just don't have capacity to put everything into one live video. And the intention behind this was really more to talk about the energies. But I hope this was helpful. Let me know if you've tuned in. Let me know if you're watching the replay. Please reach out and connect to me if you feel at all called. I would love to have a conversation with you, get to know you, say hi if we know each other, find out what resonated with you from this. I, again, just feel super passionate about this work and about helping you see what's going on in the energies and how you can apply this to your life. So if you have any interest in knowing more about your personal birth chart and how these current energies are playing out, please let me know. But yeah, other than that, I think that was all I wanted to talk about. Yeah, we're going to be going through Pluto retrograde for a while. So I would say we're going to be seeing a lot changing on the collective scale as well. And a lot of potential for some big shifts. So it can be exciting. And I hope you all are doing well. I hope you're staying optimistic, even if you're going through the shadows. And I'll see you next time. Thanks. Namaste.